The cold Alpha King, Alaric Draven, was a man carved from stone, his heart long buried beneath the weight of war, duty, and a lifetime of solitude. Known across the kingdoms as a ruler without mercy, he commanded armies with a glance, and his enemies quaked at the sound of his name. Legends whispered that he was cursed, incapable of love, incapable of warmth. To his people, he was their savior and protector, but to those close enough to see, he was a man cloaked in loneliness, never allowing anyone to pierce the icy armor around his heart. For Alaric, the idea of a mate was weakness. His advisors pressed him year after year, urging him to claim Eluna and secure the bloodline of the throne. But he dismissed them with a glare that silenced even the boldest of men. Love, he believed, was a distraction. Mates were shackles, and he, the Alpha King, would never bow to fate's chains. Far from the towering castle where Alaric sat on his throne, in a forgotten pack on the outskirts of the realm, lived Alara. She was an Omega girl, the lowest of the low in wolf society, rejected and scorned by her own kind. Born with a frail body and a quiet spirit, she was branded as useless. Her family had abandoned her, her pack had turned their backs, and she was forced to scavenge for scraps to survive. Yet within her heart burned a resilience she herself did not fully understand. The day their paths crossed was not written in prophecy. It was chance, or perhaps fate's cruel design. Alaric had ridden out with his men to patrol the borders after rumors of rogue activity reached his ears. He was ruthless with rogues, never granting mercy. But as they rode deeper into the forest, the stench of blood carried on the wind. They followed it, expecting to find another skirmish, another rogue to execute. Instead, they found her. Alara lay crumpled on the forest floor, her body bruised and bloodied, her clothes torn from an attack. A group of rogues had left her for dead. Her breath was faint, her pulse weak, but her eyes, when they fluttered open, met his with a fire that stunned him. For the first time in years, Alaric felt something pierce through the icy numbness within him. He should have left her. She was weak, an Omega, nothing to his world. But he couldn't walk away. Take her, he commanded his men. Bring her to the castle. His warriors exchanged shocked glances. The Alpha King never intervened in the affairs of Omegas, never showed softness, never allowed weakness into his halls. But no one dared question him. When Alara awoke, she found herself in a room grander than anything she had ever known. Golden tapestries, a roaring fire, and silken sheets surrounded her. Panic seized her heart, but then the door opened, and he entered. The Alpha King. His presence filled the room like a storm, his eyes as cold as the northern ice, yet burning with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You are safe," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "No one will harm you here." But safety was foreign to Alara. She flinched at kindness, mistrusted it, for in her world kindness was often followed by cruelty. She bowed her head, murmuring thanks, and prepared herself for the moment he would tire of her presence. Days turned to weeks, and the Alpha King did not send her away. Instead, he watched her. From the shadows of the throne room, from the training grounds, from the hallways of his vast fortress. She moved with quiet grace, carrying burdens heavier than anyone could see. He caught glimpses of her strength when she stood up to servants who mocked her, of her compassion when she tended to the injured wolves in the infirmary, of her courage when she dared to look him in the eyes. And slowly, something he had long buried began to stir. But Alaric fought it. He told himself it was pity. He told himself it was curiosity. He told himself anything but the truth. For the truth was dangerous. The truth was that his wolf stirred when she was near, restless and yearning, whispering the impossible, "Mate." Alara felt it too, though she dared not believe it. How could the moon goddess pair her, a rejected Omega, with the most powerful Alpha in the world? It was a cruel joke, surely. And yet, every time his eyes lingered on her, every time his voice softened when he spoke to her, every time his presence filled the room, her heart knew. He was hers. The court, however, did not share in this silent revelation. Whispers began to spread through the palace. The king was distracted. The king was different. And all because of a pathetic Omega girl. Hatred brewed. Intrigue festered. Enemies sharpened their blades, sensing an opening. One night, when the moon hung heavy in the sky, Alaric called Alara to the balcony of his chamber. The wind bit with icy teeth, but she stood firm, her eyes lifting to his. You do not fear me, he said, his tone curious, almost accusing. I do, she whispered honestly. But I see you too. No one sees me. His voice cracked like thunder, yet in it was a thread of pain. I do, she repeated, her hand trembling as she dared to touch his arm. You are not just a king. You are a man, and men are not made of stone. Something inside him shattered. He had been untouchable, unreachable, untamed. Yet in that moment, with her fragile hand on his skin, he felt more alive than he had in decades. His wolf roared with recognition, demanding he claim her. But claiming her meant war. The court would never accept an Omega as queen. His enemies would use it against him. His people would see it as weakness. Still, Alaric, the Alpha King, who had defied fate itself for so long, now found himself standing at the edge of a choice that could change everything. As their bond grew, so did the danger. Assassination attempts became frequent. Poison found its way into their meals. Trusted advisors turned traitors. And through it all, Alara remained by his side, no longer the broken Omega girl he had rescued, but a woman rising into her power. She discovered a gift within herself, one no one had ever seen before. She could heal with her touch, not just wounds of the flesh, but of the soul. When Alaric's nightmares clawed at him, she calmed the storm. When his rage threatened to consume him, she soothed the fire. She was his balance, his anchor, his salvation. And he, in turn, was her protector, her champion, her alpha. Together, they faced down the court. Together, they stood against the armies of rival packs who sought to tear them apart. Together, they rewrote the rules of destiny. When the final battle came, Alaric fought not just for his throne, but for her. Alara stood beside him, no longer the rejected Omega, but the Luna chosen by fate and by love. Their enemies underestimated her, but she proved that the weakest can become the strongest when love fuels their spirit. When victory was won, when the dust settled, and when the kingdom bowed before them, Alaric took her hand in his and declared before all. This is my mate, this is my queen. From this day forth, none shall question her worth. For she is mine, and I am hers. The kingdom trembled, but the bond between them was unbreakable. The cold Alpha King was cold no longer, for the rejected Omega girl had melted the ice around his heart and built a love that burned brighter than any flame. And so, the legend of the Alpha King and his Omega Queen was born, not a tale of fate alone, but of choice, defiance, and a love so powerful it reshaped the world.